Psalm 100. Shout for joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness. Come before him with joyful songs. Know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him and praise his name. For the Lord is good, and his love endures forever. His faithfulness continues through all generations.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone, and I'm no longer slave to fear. I am a child of God, and I'm no longer slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood runs through my veins, and I'm no longer slave to fear. I am a child of God, and I'm no longer slave to fear. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. You split the sea so I could walk right through it. My fears were drowned in perfect love. You rescued me so I could stand and sing. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. Presence is all I need, it's all I want, it's all I seek, and without it, there's no meaning. Your presence is the air I breathe, the song I sing, and the love I need, and without it, I'm not insist. All I need is all I want. It's all I seek, and without it, there's no meaning. Presence is the air I breathe, the song I sing, and the love I need. And without it, I'm not living. So I will exalt you, Lord. I will exalt you, Lord. There is no one like you, God. I will exalt you, Lord. I will exalt you, Lord. No other name be lifted high. There will be no one like you, and no one beside you. You alone are worthy of all praise. There will be no one like you, and no one beside you. You alone are worthy of all praise. And I will exalt you, Lord. I will exalt you, Lord. There is no one like you, God. I will exalt you, Lord. I will exalt you, Lord. No other name be lifted high. Presence is all I need. It's all I want, all I seek, and without it, there's no meaning.
Well, hey everybody, welcome once again to our online gathering. We're just so thrilled that you're joining us again. You've hit play. Well done from wherever you are. And we're already hitting the middle of June. It's hard to believe that summer is like right on us and we're just gearing up for summer. And we're just so thrilled again that you've hit play today. And I'm super excited about the next couple weeks. I think the next couple weeks are gonna be phenomenal. And I hope you can join us as well next week. Here's what we're gonna do. One of the things we really value at Praxis is coming around the scriptures together and wrestling through this. If you look to the archives, we've wrestled through so many books of the Bible. And obviously gathering with the church week in and week out is a huge part of our apprenticeship to Jesus as disciples. But I've just been thinking a lot the last little while, especially with the moment that we're in, with so much going on around us, how there's other things that have really developed me as a follower of Jesus. Some of my discipleship, and I'm sure you're the same, has really been developed around things like bonfires and around long coffees and beers with people just talking about the way of Jesus and wrestling together. Or I always think in our home, it's kind of the back deck. You know, those summer evenings where you're with friends and you just start talking about Jesus and the kingdom and what this means for us. Well, as much as we love wrestling through the scriptures and doing all that, I really feel like we're in a moment where we kind of want to have a back deck moment. And so the next couple of weeks, we have we have the best, all right? We have the best guys that are going to come, and they're here with me today, and we're just going to take the next couple of weeks and just wrestle through some different things, and really, again, kind of have this back deck moment where we just share from our hearts what God's doing in our lives, what we're seeing happen in the world. We're going to talk about race and racial reconciliation, and the racism we're seeing right now in our moment. And obviously we've really seen some things the last few weeks that have hit the media and social media. We want to talk about that. We also want to talk, because all of us are fathers, and we want to talk about fatherhood and what this means, what it means to be a man in the church in our moment. And we'll probably talk about mentorship along the way too, and what we're just really excited to see happen in our lives and in our church over the next little while. So we have the best. I'm really pumped that these guys are with us. Hey, why don't we do this, guys? Welcome. Why don't we go kind of around the horn? I feel like Tony Reali. And if you don't know who Tony Reali is, that's okay. This is like a dream come true for me. There's a show on ESPN. It's called Around the Horn. But I got some guys here with me. Why don't you guys just go around and just share who you are? Give us a little bit of background about who you guys are.
Hey guys, so I am Jay Lawrence. I originally grew up in South Africa, moved to England, and then I've been in Canada for 8 years. I am married to Laura. We have 2 kids, Isabella and Joseph. Been a part of the Praxis community for about a year now. My kind of day-to-day, I work for Youth for Christ. I run a basketball program, working with mainly high school-aged boys here in the community.
Amazing. Marco.
Hey, my name is Mark Rodriguez. Been part of the Praxis community since City View days as well. So, back 10 years, close to that anyways. So day to day, I work in insurance, very exciting stuff. So work for Allstate Insurance, and we have an agency here in London that I oversee, and have an awesome team of agents as well. And of course, attend church with my wife Chelsea and son Elias, and new baby on the way as well. So next month.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, my name is Serge Kaniki, and I was originally born in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I grew up in South Africa, spent some time there, and moved to the States for university. Went to Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee, lived in the States for about 8 years, and then moved to Canada some 10 years ago, and joined Praxis Church also around the same time, about 10 years ago. Actually, it was Roy View at the time, and then started Praxis, or City View at the time, with these guys, Drew and Marco. I'm married to Nicole, and I have 2 sons, Noah and Micah, 14 and 9. On a day-to-day basis, I'm a IT analyst at TD Bank, and I also coach basketball. I coach for the London Ramblers, and also work with Jay at Compass Basketball, where we do some coaching together.
Amazing. Hard to believe 10 years too, for the church. Just crazy how time flies. All right, so here's what normally happens is you do interview style, and then at the end, like I don't know if you guys listen to podcasts a lot, at the end they'll do rapid fire questions. And my pet peeve is why don't you start with some rapid fire questions? Are you ready for this? Okay, here we go. Shawarma or sushi? Shawarma or sushi?
Shawarma, hands down. That's easy.
All right.
That's easy.
Marco. Shawarma all the way. 100%.
It's a tough one. I would say shawarma as well.
Cool. I'm shawarma as well. Shout out to the London Shawarma House, and just, I'm allowed to have it once a week, but I've been lobbying during quarantine to have it a couple of times. And now there's other shawarma places popping up all over the place, which is great. All right. Favorite watch during quarantine. And let me just preface, favorite watch during quarantine, but it can't be The Last Dance, okay? Because that's just a given. Serge, favorite watch during quarantine? Obviously Last Dance by far, but...
You've just taken everything away from me, Drew. The Last Dance has definitely been a thing in our house. But I would say, on Netflix, we've been binge watched a few things, but a lot of times there's been a lot of coaching clinics and stuff that I'm interested in. So I've just watched a ton of that during the pandemic. Yeah.
Cool. Jay, anything come to mind?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest here and say like in quarantine, obviously with kids being home every day and spending a lot of time with them, which has just been great. Like kids movies have been happening all the time. So I'm gonna say Trolls World Tour.
Okay, all right.
Like
Is that
I was surprised. Like I actually enjoyed it, man. It was good. Like
so? Is that the new one that you had to rent, kind of, that had come out during quarantine?
Yes.
Yeah. We
Yes.
have that one as well. It was a good movie for sure. Like nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Disney Plus all day for sure in the quarantine. All right, one thing you need to get done around the house over the summer.
One of the things for us is really simple. Like not simple, but I know is just clearing our backyard and just again because we've been at home much more, so just trying to make the house more kid friendly and just trying to create more space, more room for the kids just to run and play.
Cool. Marco, you're always just toiling.
Chelsea's got a list for me on the fridge, actually. So she's got a before baby comes list. And on there, I got to fix the doorbell. I have to hang hooks in the bedroom for some hats. I have to clean both cars. So there's a couple things on the list.
No doubt.
Clean the windows. I got to clean the windows in the house as well.
Cool.
So a couple things on the list.
I have a honey-do list as well, like Marco. You're not alone, brother. I got you. But on top of that list is just refinishing our stairs and front room floors. They're hardwood, so it's probably going to require a good week to do. So that's big on the list right now.
Nice. Okay. And this could, take the whole time. I know we're probably already out of time with this, but LeBron or Jordan?
Oh.
Yeah, honestly, to me, it's not even a long conversation. There's one answer. It's MJ.
Okay.
Yeah.
Marco?
I don't really actually watch basketball.
I know,
but I'm
yeah.
gonna go with MJ because back in the 90s when I was growing up, that was, he was huge.
For sure.
Oh man, it's so tough. You make it so tough, Jay. Not Jay. Sorry, Drew. Jay makes it tough sometimes too. I would say I grew up with Michael Jordan, but I also watched LeBron since he was in high school. Mm-hmm. I may change my mind next week, but I'm gonna say LeBron right now.
Man, The Last Dance was phenomenal, but it's so hard. 8 finals in a row. If he wins with the Lakers, it's still hard with Jordan. 6 finals. I think 6 finals MVPs. Like it's crazy, but I think there's more. And it's harder to win. I think it was hard to win in the 90s, but I was thinking this morning in the showers thinking about this. If only that Miami team almost only won 1 of 4. Like they almost lost. If you think Ray Allen shot, they don't win that title. So that may be the knock, is they had such a good team and really won 2 of 4. And I mean, the Mavericks, I wanted the Mavericks to win. It was kind of more, it was a good team, but more of a pedestrian team. And then obviously ran into Pop and those guys. So I'm in the middle too. I don't think it's as easy as possible. Is Die Hard a legitimate Christmas movie?
It's not a feel-good Christmas movie, but it's like to me, it's part of Christmas too. I couldn't watch it with my kids.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd watch it with Laura, but it's definitely up there as part of the part of December.
For sure. December 23rd for me. Marco, legit Die Hard?
Absolutely, it's got a Christmas tree in it. It's a Christmas movie.
All right, sweet.
Have not watched it in years and years and years, so no.
There you go.
Although it's a great movie.
Yeah. All right. Final one is this. Because we all play fantasy football together. Who do you think out of the 4 of us was the best, finished the best, and who do you think finished the worst?
Are you talking this season or last season? Because
so last season, final standings.
Okay.
I'm gonna go first, and I'm gonna say that, I was a newbie into the league, and I took the league by storm last season. Took it by storm. This season, I really wanted to encourage my other brothers, and I wanted to share the love. And I was struggling from the beginning. And actually, Mark was one of the guys at the draft night. I was like, man, he's playing these percentages really nicely. I'm more of a maverick. I was trying to take risks and take rookies. Most of the time it doesn't pay off, and it didn't pay off this time again. So I would like Mark's team solid from day one, and I was not, and I've got to admit to that. And next year, I've already started thinking and planning and strategy,
Nice.
and
Nice.
yeah.
So here's the thing: ESPN wouldn't let me in to check who was the best and who was the worst from last out of the four of us because it wants me to reboot the league, and I don't want to do that. I do that on August the 1st. It's like a tradition, so I don't even know. But I think Jay, I was the bottom of the four of us. I think. Mark, were you in the playoffs? You were in the finals, yeah. Mark. Oh, the finals.
Mark won.
You won. You won it all.
Yeah,
so,
right
of course.
there.
Yeah,
You won
there
it
you
all.
go.
It came down to the last 5 minutes of the
It
final
did.
game.
Poor-
Yeah, with Kevin Carino.
Poor Kev,
Yeah.
if you're watching.
Yeah, that's right. Kevin came out of nowhere in the very end, right? It's
Yeah.
the last 4 or 5 games he came out of nowhere. But funny enough, I actually don't really watch football either. But
And you won. See?
But I'm a
Rub
numbers
that
guy.
in, Mark.
I'm just yeah. I'm a numbers guy, and so before the draft night, I had to do all my research and look at everybody's numbers and find out not just the numbers of the players. You got to look at the team as well, right?
Very
and you just
true.
got to find
like
the
it.
predictions and that's how I draft. So.
Analytics guy. I love it. I love it. Cool. Well, just some fun. I think that's fun. It's funny to be in fantasy football leagues together and quib about some of these things. It's been a really interesting few weeks, as you guys know, and I just from my heart, I've just been gutted as we've watched racism take center stage through the death of George Floyd and many others. And the racial injustice we're seeing, I don't know, but I know you guys as well have been broken. Just how hurt people are, what this has conjured up, the inequality and injustice, and some of the things that we've seen. For me, it's also been a moment where I've been myself has been confronted. To be honest, I've just been on my end, just learning to listen. It's hard as a pastor dude, right? Pastor dudes and gals always seem to have something to say, and as we talk about systemic change and some of the things we've seen, I just really want to come from a posture of listening and learning. Somebody really wise recently in the last little while said this. They said there's a lot happening in the media right now, and people are building opinions. People are trying to argue about who is right or wrong and trying to see whose fault it is. What I encourage you to do is to listen to people's stories, to listen to true stories, and use that as your foundation. Be compassionate as you listen to those stories. And that was actually Jay on social media that shared that. So, with all this, how are you guys feeling through this? I just like to hear, how you're feeling in this moment. What are some of the things on your heart? I know our community too would love to hear that.
I can go first. So it's an interesting time for sure. I think just leading up to George Floyd's death, it was already pretty interesting and shocking with Ahmaud Arbery's murder that was caught on video and just the news surrounding that. And then not only that, it was Breonna Floyd as well. Mm-hmm. Breonna Taylor. It's just surreal, but also great and hopeful at the same time, seeing all the support that is going on around the world. Really, it's not just here in North America that you're seeing marches and just protests, but all over the world, to New Zealand and Australia. There's to England. There's hope even in our home country of South Africa. So there is hope that change will happen, and people are starting to listen. I think people. I'm not sure if people have just had the time to observe and absorb things, but I think at the same time, people know that enough is enough as well, and that's great, and that gives me hope.
Mm-hmm. Both Jay and yourself, Serge, as well, have had different platforms, and it's been beautiful through a news article, through you, Serge, and I've just really appreciated your heart, Jay, through all this and the call to listen and compassion. What are you sensing? What are you feeling? What have you been feeling over these weeks?
I think it's difficult to talk about some of this stuff in isolation, because none of it is in isolation. And as Serge said, it's a number of events, and we can almost just keep going back and further back and further back. And I know this is going to sound like a terrible analogy to use, but I remember learning about, World War II, and some of the ways they used to kind of try and get information from people and almost torture people. And there was that, I think it was called the drip technique, where a tap would drip on someone's head over a very long time, and eventually it could, almost crack your skull. And I feel like for years it was like dripping, like so many different events, and Trayvon Martin and all these things. It was like a steady drip. And then George Floyd was almost the incident that cracked people's hearts and broke people's hearts, and tore people's, just the way they looked at the world. And I think just seeing that on video, and again, I don't think it was that one incident. It's years and different incidents of things. And I think what's been interesting for me, like, to be honest, I'm sure like everyone else, like that week or 10 days or now, it was really heavy, and it was hard to see good. It was hard to feel hope. But I was encouraged by the amount of people who were just asking questions. I think as a black man, like, sometimes people can expect us to be an expert in this, and we're not. Like, and that's why I think like telling your story is all you can do, because we can't answer for other people. But I will say that it was painful. But for me personally, like, I'm starting to see hope. But I also realize that I have to choose to want to see hope,
Right.
and I have to choose to want to trust God in this. Or I could just kind of, throw my hands up and just say, well, let everyone just do what they want to do. Like, I have to trust in a God that is faithful. And I believe that with everything that's happened, I hope it's not just a social media thing or something that's current, and people, everyone's putting on social media their black screen. I hope that in a week from now, in a month from now, in a year from now, that people are still trying to understand, rather than just do because it's what we're supposed to do. And I think even yesterday I was walking with my kids, and I feel more hopeful for them, because 2 weeks ago, to be honest, I didn't. I struggled to look at the world and be excited for them. But again, I know that it was partly my own posture and my own heart, that I needed to strain to see God in this, because at one point it didn't feel like there was any hope.
Yeah. Marco, any thoughts, any feelings?
Yeah, so for me, it's definitely been a bit of just listening to what everybody is saying, right? I know that, I've heard from Serge and Nicole stories from the past, even just stories with Micah in his school. I've had friends in the past tell me stories about their experiences and encounters with various different people. I personally experienced one situation, maybe about 10 years ago, that was very apparent to me that this individual, black individual, is being treated differently than the rest of us, and the rest of us were all white, right? So that was the one time I witnessed that. But I know it's kind of like Jay said, that there's definitely been the drip, and we've seen it, we've heard it on social media, and I think that companies and corporations specifically are really waking up to this. And I think, this week alone, I received a couple emails from my workplace and an association that I'm part of, clearly, dictating what their position is. And so I think it's a huge wake up call for a lot of people. And so, I've been listening and watching to see how I can take part in this and be a positive influence and be somebody that's not just standing by, but somebody that's able to actively be part of the movement in making sure that we do move forward.
Yeah, for sure. No, I love that input from all of you, and different experiences, I also think through not just Praxis, but what do you think this means for the church? Like, what can the church ultimately learn from this, as we move forward, and from some of the things we've seen with racism and also even what we've seen rise up? Do you think there's anything we can learn from, this moment?
I think it's something that filled me with hope last week, and it was really difficult to get through it, to be honest. And Serge was part of it as well. We opened up a platform for all of our players to sign in on Zoom, and we kind of cut our usual program of a workout, a book study, and we just spoke about what's happening in the world. And it was great. We had, from grade 8 guys to senior high school guys. We have many black players in our group, and we had a lot of our white players sign in too, and coaches. And like I said, Serge was there too, and it was really encouraging, I think, to hear the coaches share. But we kind of handed it over to the boys and just say, hey, if anyone wants to say something or share or ask a question, it's over to you, knowing that teenage boys, let alone adult boys, don't actually necessarily want to talk about their feelings. But
Sure.
guys eventually started to share, and I was, partly I was encouraged, and also my heart was broken, because we had some guys who just said, Coach, I hope that out of this situation, people can see that I'm more than just an athlete. Like, just because I can jump high and because I can shoot the ball, like, there's more to me, and I can want more for my life than just being a basketball player.
Wow.
And and that was just one of my takeaways. I'm sure Serge has some too, but that was that moment, that session, and we almost went over time really with the guys, and we could have kept going. And what I realized was young people are noticing, and they are feeling, and they are part of it. And it's not just about what politicians say and what celebrities say, but like how young people are watching and they are listening. And it encouraged me to keep this discussion going. And I was impressed by our white players who came to that Zoom too, who I'm sure for them was slightly awkward. It was slightly like, I don't know what to do, but they were there anyway. And I love that. Like, to me, that was just, it was so powerful. And that moment, like, that helped me digest the rest of everything else that was happening. Just knowing that the boys that we work with, that we can help them, and that we can help guide them and love them and encourage them. And I think it's definitely something that those conversations need to happen. And it was a great moment, but I also realized that we need many more moments just like that one.
Yeah, and as you talk about the youthfulness, like young people really bringing and wanting change, that's the thing that has stood out to me as well, is just the passion of young people for change. Even in the rally we had in the protest in London with Black Lives Matter, my mind was blown at just the youthfulness of folk leading the way. Serge, you probably have some things to share on that, being involved with what Jay was talking about. Maybe you also want to lean into a little bit to even what we can, the church as well, what we can take from this.
Right. I think where we're starting is a great place. We have to have the conversations. You have to talk about the difficult issues. And you have to build awareness. I think this whole movement is about awareness. And I think the church plays a big role in that. The church is an integral part of society. Praxis is a very important part of my life. And I do expect the conversations to carry on. I think that's very important. I do expect awareness to be built, but also just know that there is injustice. Just like there's injustice with poverty, with sexism, with all kinds of discrimination, there is systemic racism as well, right here in London, right here in the city. Jay and I see that all the time with the community that we serve. And I think from a biblical standpoint, it's pretty simple, but at the same time, it can be easily overlooked because we've been so used to be calloused in society and even in the church about racial issues that we don't know what our brothers and sisters might be going through. I think just being aware of those things is a great start. But going further, just knowing that Jesus talked about making sure that the poor and the hungry and the sick are taken care of, but it's also the racially marginalized people. Right here in the city, and there's so many of them that need help. And I think that taking action will come after we've listened, after we've talked about it. I think then we need to take some action.
Yeah, I think, in light of the church, this is a gospel issue. I know some people will quib about whether or not this is an absolute, and I hope our community hears this, racial reconciliation is a gospel issue. And I've had conversations even with Serge and others, and I know it was different in the first century, for sure, but to read the New Testament properly, you have to read these letters and the reconciling work in Ephesians and Corinthians. There was a lot of hostility in that day, and it's amazing to see how the New Testament writers were like, no, the church is living this out different. And I think, obviously we're now 2,000 years later, and it's certainly different issues in a different time. But man, I often feel about how the church, needs to lead the way in this. Mark, you've been a part of the church. Well, what I love about you, man, is from a young guy, and we were part of the same youth ministry together, and a great leader in the church. What do you sense? Do you sense anything as far as that comes to mind or your heart for the church and just moving forward?
Yeah, I think that Serge and Jay did a fantastic job hitting a lot of the really important parts. So, I think that starting with a conversation, starting with what we've got going on right now is definitely the perfect place to start. I know for me, I want to have more conversations like this one-on-one with Serge, with Jay, with other Black men and women as well, right? Just to be able to understand more, because like I said before, I don't have that personal experience of being treated or systematically, systematically have the racism against me like others do. So I think having those conversations first, but like Serge said, eventually there does have to come action. And I think that there's a lot of things that the church will be able to do down the road, such as go into racially marginalized neighborhoods or areas to serve, right? And there will be other potential opportunities for us as well.
Yeah.
Drew, I think, sorry to interrupt. I mean, something I thought about, and I've also heard, some, I guess, other comments about that over the last few weeks. But obviously, I mean, this all comes on the back of the pandemic, on the back of the coronavirus, and maybe that's a big contributor to why things have happened in the way that it has, because it allowed people to zero in on almost one specific thing. Because we weren't too busy. Like, we weren't too busy to go to meetings.
And just to say, Jay, that's what and to say, I often think is, God's hand in moving and bringing this type of awareness. It's just interesting how this is all aligned together. You're absolutely right.
I agree. And I think with the church, I think the pandemic has also opened up the question about the church. And I know for me as a Christian, it's like, what are we doing with our time? Mm-hmm. What are the things that we are fighting for? What are the things we're giving energy to? And I think we've all realized in this time of quarantine, I think it's brought a lot of clarity. And I think we've realized, like, actually, I don't need a lot of time, maybe going to the mall, or I'll speak for myself, going to Foot Locker. Like we waste a lot of time with things that are not that important, again, I'm speaking for myself, and now when these things happen and you realize, man, there's some really important things happening in the world, and also there are people that need us in the community. And sometimes we are too busy. Like, we're too busy to hear. Like, we're too busy to hear the noise and to hear the cries of young people and anyone. If I'm honest, it's interesting how this pandemic has maybe opened our ears and has forced us to be quiet and has forced us to stop and actually see the world maybe how God is seeing it. It's definitely been enlightening.
Again, I can't agree more, just with how this is all, come together. I feel like it's timely in that sense. And my prayer for our community is, God, let it be. Let the conversations happen. Let us respond, with agape, with this kind of love that we see for our brothers and sisters all around us. And it's so important. And I think you're right. This moment with the pandemic and everything, it's slowed us all down in many ways, a good way. And so my heart is that our posture would just turn towards God in this moment. Hey, buddy, welcome to the conversation.
Say hi.
What's up, Joey?
This is Joey.
Hey, Joey.
Good to see you, man.
Sorry, guys.
No, don't be sorry. No,
He just had a nap. He just woke up. Sorry.
Awesome. No problem at all.
Keep on. Just to add to what can the church do, or what is the church's role, or what part does the church play in this? I think from a macro standpoint, obviously we know that we have to be aware. We know that we have to have these conversations, but I think I look at our community, for instance, and one of the things that's great about our community is that we have a lot of young people, and with that, essentially tells me that the young people in our church are the future of this city. Yeah. And we're raising kids as well who are interested, and they're looking at us to find out what we do. And I think it's probably even more important for us as a young church to educate our kids, to have these conversations with our kids when the opportunity comes up, to really stand up to and get out of our way and out of our comfort zone. Yeah. To address some of these things in our families, and to look for ways in which we can partner with people to have the conversations and to take action. I was proud to see some of our Praxis members at the march that we had right here in London last weekend. The Black Lives Matter march. That was great. You guys made an appearance, I see. I did see online as well some other people that were there. So I was proud to see that. Yeah. I think that's great. I think that we just need to continue to talk, but also when it comes to taking action, we just have to self-reflect. And like Jay said, very important is, what are we spending our time doing? What causes are we engaging in that are making an impact right here in our city, right here where we live?
Yeah, so good. Yeah, I'm thankful that the conversation here can just start and continue, and I'm just really thankful for you guys and your input. You mean the world to me, and my prayer as I hear you guys talk, my prayer is, again, let it be, God. Let your light and your love shine through us. And it really does. It does start with us. I'm wondering, we're kind of out of time for today. Would you guys stick around for another week? I would love to talk with you guys just about fatherhood for Father's Day. Would you join us for another week? And, just men in the church. Is that all right? Can you stick around?
I got to go.
All right, everybody. Well, I hope you can send these guys some love, but we are going to be back next week, and we're going to talk about fatherhood and just the church and what this means for us. And I'm just, again, really thankful for these guys. I just pray that what we've talked through, again, this kind of back deck moment, would stir something within you. God, reconcile us. God, and we ultimately, our prayers is, God, reconcile the world, but do it through us. And so maybe for you, that's just the Spirit speaking to you today, just about the little things in your life that you can help in reconciliation. As Jay talked about, kind of the slow drip, this doesn't happen overnight. And we think about a year, 5 years, 10 years, and the change we believe God is going to bring through this. With all this said, we're just so thankful you joined us. Why don't we just? I would just love to pray this. Every week we pray a closing prayer. I'd love to pray this over our community. Let me pray it over you. Father, Son, and Spirit, empower us to imitate you in everything we do. Guide us to put off our old self and put on our new self in Christ. Help us to walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. Let's say it together. Amen. Amen. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for being with us. We're going to have these guys back next week. Have an incredible week. We'll see you soon, church. We love you.